Good morning, everyone. Let me know if I'm audible and you can see the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Let's start. Last three classes, we basically discussed Hadoop tools, different kind of tools. In this lecture, we'll basically look at Yarn application framework, how it enables the non-MapReduce applications to make use of Hadoop cluster. And one example of that would be distributed cell. We all know what cell is. Basically, on a Unix system, the interface by which you interact with the OS. It could be Bond cell, it could be K cell, it could be other cells. Or in Windows, you have a CM command terminal, you run PowerShell scripts and whatever. So the distributed cell does not use MapReduce framework, but it still uses Hadoop. So first we will basically look at how is distributed cell works, and then we will log into the actual Yarn application architecture framework, the way it works. And then we look at the other frameworks other than MapReduce or distributed cell that could be used by, that could use Yarn framework to run their different jobs. Now, though the third point, the application framework basically will give a listing and it's going to be more or less simple, getting familiar with nomenclatures rather than getting into more details. If you want to get more details, you have to go to respective websites and get the idea. But from the course perspective, we'll just get basic familiarity with this framework. Just to look at how does the difference between Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2 is, this diagram shows you Hadoop 1. We have HDFS storage. On top of it, we basically run MapReduce programming. And then we have services and whatever applications you want to run. And this is your H-based distributed cluster. Of course, the other things run parallel to that. In Hadoop 2, you bring in the column Yarn, which is basically Yarn resource scheduling and the negotiation layer, manage resources. And because of the Yarn, these previous things remain as it is, and we got another framework. That means any application which is not a MapReduce type can still run. And that is what this Yarn basically gives you. Just to give the idea, just to review, this we have discussed way back in our probably chapter 3, the Hadoop 1 control elements. We have a job tracker, which basically tracks the job, and it not only tracks job, it also monitors, manages the resources, does scheduling, as well as the job status. Does both of job. And then each node has a task tracker, it talks to it. And because of this consolidated nature, it becomes tougher to run non-MapReduce applications. So primarily job tracker manage cluster resources, these nodes are up, how much memory available, how many CPU cores are available, what is the load, other kind of things, as well as does the job scheduling, both part of it. In Hadoop version 2, the job tracker is primarily split into two parts. One is called resource manager and other is called application master. Application master is per application basis what runs, so it is different from the task tracker. So one resource manager which basically looks at the entire cluster and looks at what the resources are available. Resources basically meaning node uptime, power, compute power, memory, bandwidth, storage, and other things. And application master is for a specific application. So whenever you run an application, there will be one application master run. Of course, the application master would run on some of the nodes, another would run the applications. So let's look at how this really basically works. As you said, in Hadoop, from Hadoop 1 to Hadoop 2, we split MapReduce engine into two parts, the scheduler and the MapReduce framework. And we look at the example of what is called a yarn distributed cell. We have been dealing with a single cell. That means if I were to run commands on two different machines, I need to log into those two different machines, and I want to look at the load there. I need to give a command uptime separately on both machines, look at where they are, and then do my distributed cell, meaning I have a cell component which runs on every machine, and then whatever command I give, the same command I should be able to run on all other nodes or whichever chosen nodes. And there is no MapReduce framework that the aggregation. We are simply using distributed computing platform given by Hadoop to run our command. And that means whatever command we can run in cell, it will be replicated, or same command would be run in all the machines, and that output could be combined together and given. When you run a cell command, output goes is always going in std out, and we can see the output of any command std out. Once we understand how does my distributed cell works, that means we understood the basic distributed computing that makes use of Hadoop framework, and then using that understanding, we can certainly build other applications to run other distributed applications. And basically meaning with the distributed cell example, we would be able to demonstrate that how non-MapReduce applications could run. Now to run my distributed cell, that means we need to basically, and this distributed cell comes pre-installed with Hadoop 2 to demonstrate that feature. So rather than typing the entire path of the where by jar file with distributed cell is, we define an environment variable called yarn ds, which is basically in terms of yarn home, share, Hadoop yarn. Depending on installation, it could be 330 or 2.10.1 or whatever Hadoop installation you have done. Typically, yarn home will be same as Hadoop home, and then Hadoop home you basically find out you'll find distributed cell. So this is a software, a distributed cell that will run when using our distributed cell, and we'll give you examples running it and look at how we could run different commands. Now, since a cell, we can give different command, we need different options, parameters. We would like to know how many containers we like to use, what kind of applications you want to run, what are the parameters, options, and other, how much memory you would like to allocate to this container, how many CPU cores you would like to allocate. So those kind of information or options you can give to cell, and those options are given. So if you use a command, so like yarn is my basically resource manager, then using a client, yarn client, indicating I need to run the software, and then basically the help part. So we run application name, which is the default application, which happens to be a distributed cell, and then how many retries you like to do, what is the memory for a container, and other parts. Container resources, more than memory, want to specify number of virtual CPU cores. You can specify all this through container resources. Debug help. If you want to look at how the logging to be done through log.json properties file, you can specify which is the log4j file, will determine log information, whether you want to put info or error or warning or fatal or debug, those can be governed through this. And again, since we have a job which runs application master, and then individual jobs in container. We should be able to specify resources for application master and then individual containers. Important to us from perspective is how many cluster nodes we like to run our distributed cell program. So specify number of containers. If we don't give it by default, it is 1. We specify number 3, 4. It will run on that many containers, the same program. Now, when we run the cell, we need to give a cell command that which command you like to use, like for example, ls or uptime or pwd, whatever cell command you want to use. And if on the cell command, you need to give arguments, then you specify all those arguments through cell args. If there are multiple arguments to be given, then you basically give cell arguments, first argument, cell argument, second argument. You repeat this cell argument number of times, and that indicates cell command. So other than this cell command, if you want to run cell script, you write a single cell script and you want to invoke it, you can basically give a cell script. Now, when you run things, either you can do a cell script or you could run a cell command, but both of them cannot be given together. You can do only one out of the two. And if you want to define some environment variables, you define through that, and that's the way it will basically run through. And if you want to put a timeout, that by the time it should complete, you can only specify in terms of milliseconds, and that's the way job would be run. So we'll take a simple example of an uptime command. Does anyone know what an uptime command does on a Unix cell, Unix program? Let me run this uptime command. Can someone explain what is the output of uptime command means? Anyone?
It's returning information about how long the system is being used, and then the
Okay,
current time and number
where is
of
that
users.
information? How long it has been used?
It seems 1 hour 30 minutes, 27 seconds.
No, this is the current date time. If we look at, it's the current clock time, current date time when the command is executed.
Okay.
If we look at this, it says up one day 1944. It basically telling you system is up and running since one day 19 hours 44 minutes. In this system, there are 3 users are logged in, and then you have a load average. What does load average imply? The 3 values. What does the 3 values mean? Okay, what does load average mean? We'll look at 3 values later. Anyone, what does load average mean?
The load the
Yeah.
system is taking. We are
So how do you define it? What constitutes the load average?
like the number of operations it is doing.
No. It basically indicates, so if you look at 3 values, first value is load average, I'll come to that in 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes. Load average is number of jobs which are in ready to run queue, because they're not waiting for any resources, they are willing to run. So what is the average in last 1 minute? The number of jobs in ready to run queue. I'm sure we don't know overscores, and you know what is wait queue, ready to run queue, all of the stuff means. Ready to run queue meaning those jobs which are ready to run without waiting for resources, just waiting for CP. And that's what basically load average indicates. We look at 3 users. If I show who, you'll see 2 users are HDFS and 1 user is Jar. They were the log. So uptime basically gives me that information. If I were to run uptime again, uptime has other options to look at. There's an option like pretty output. So if I were to say, let's say uptime, this information probably would give in a nice way. So if I say uptime minus P, it tells you up 1 day, 19 hours and 47 minutes. So if you want to pass this option, that will go as a cell arguments. If you want to give a command, Unix command cell, that will go as a uptime. And that is what we are basically saying, this is what we would run. So we'll run the uptime command. How will it run? We say yarn, the client which will run the distributed cell jar file, cell command uptime, and when we run this command, since we haven't given number of containers, it will run only one instance and only one container, and that is what it will do. When you run the command, the screen output shows the progress, how it is running, the map reduce the yarn or the Hadoop progress, and it does not show you like. It does not show you the command output. For command output, you need to basically go to the log. Once the job completes, either it would have failed or it would have succeeded. If it succeeded, the last one will basically indicate distributed cell client application completed successfully. If command could not be executed, it failed, you'll basically get an error, distributed client cell failed to complete successfully. So you look at completed successfully or failed to complete successfully, that's the message you basically get. And then to identify the output of the command, like what uptime gives you, you do not get output on the screen. You have to look into the logs and then get the output from the log file. Now, log could be either aggregated or it could be cluster wise. Since I'm using this Hadoop Linux Minimal installation, which is aggregated logs, so I need to make use of the the aggregated logs, and there's a way to look at log commands. In case you like to know which application ID, because logs will require logs for specific applications, so like to know which applications have been running, either you can go through the UI part, the name node where things are running, plus 8088, and it gives you all the jobs that have been done completed, and then continues it to horizontally scroll. So further you basically see the yarn job or MapReduce job, and then the finished, succeeded, something may be failed, and we look at what this fails. And then once you look at those, you can basically analyze through the command line as well, like either through the UI, or I can say app list is finished. So give me a list of jobs which are finished. So it will basically say job finished, succeeded, failed, and they'll give both those examples. And this is the ID that we need to worry about. What is the application ID? Because if I need to look at the logs, that's the application ID that I need to use to get into the logs to know what is my output is. So let me run some commands, look at the output, and then look at things. I would run some command before. So I'm saying yarn, this client, jar file, the distributed cell, which already been defined. And then I'm doing cell command uptime. Since I'm not running any container, it will run in one container, and on the screen, it will basically display the progress. So let me run this. It starts running, and if it succeeds, you will say application succeeded successfully. If it fails, it will indicate application failed to complete successfully. So this is application completed successfully. And if you can make out my application ID is 43, or I can look at this application ID wherever you want to look at all those application ID. You need to use that. If I were to give some junk command, let's say instead of uptime, I say some command which is not available, then you basically see that the application failed to complete successfully. Submitted application, and you'll basically soon see it will give you the error indicating application. You say error application. You never see what the output really is. And this is if you look at application ID 44, either I can note from there or I can go through the browser, access the console. I'm running this on VM, the cluster mode, and you can see the applications. So if you can look at, both are distributed cell, and my job number, if you look at 43, is completed successfully, succeeded, whereas job number 44 is failed. So if I need to now look at the log, I need to basically look at the log, giving the command, let me log into another machine just to look at the log. I'll say yarn logs application ID, and my application ID was first. Let me look at 43 because that is what succeeded, and then it's aggregated log. We'll get from the logs and then basically see. Now we already discussed about the application master basic idea. We'll get into more details of the structure. So whenever you launch an application, first it launches the application master, which runs in one of the nodes, and that ID is always one. So this is basically application master that tracks all the jobs. So there'll be no output for this. That means our job actually starts from container number 2. You can see container for the job ID 43, container number 2. So depending on how the logs are written, they may be serialized differently because they're going into HDFS again. So I'll scroll up and somewhere I'll find this container number 2, and that's where I'll see the IDs. Look at this, my container number 2. And as we said, output always comes as std out. So look at container number 2, we say log type std out, and log content is what will basically get the output of the program. So when I say log content tells me the output of the actual command I run. And since I ran only one container, one job, you'll see only one output. If I were to run other programs, let's say I run uptime, I want to give cell arguments, let's say minus p is pretty, and I want to run it in 4 containers. So I can say dash num containers 4. So container number 1 would correspond to application master, and container number 2, 3, 4 we basically would be running 2, 3, 4, 5 would run the uptime command with the uptime command with option -p, and we'll see. So let's run it, and you see this will run in 4 containers, and again you look at the logs and then analyze it. This time you can say my application ID is 45. So we look at from the application ID 45. It's completed successfully. So let me look at the logs of 45. As we said, we have run 4 instances. That means I should look at the output of container number 2, container number 3, container number 4, and container number 5. And container number 1 would correspond to application master. So this is container number 5. You can say std output. And since we have given the priority option -p, we're basically seeing the output in the log content. So log would always come in the container log type std out, and log content indicates what is the output. So container number 5, you should also see container number 4. You'll basically get the same output with the different log messages. This is container number 3. Again, as I said, it's not necessarily true that all the logs will come same time, depending on different instances done. So this container number 3, we got the same output. We look at now container number 2 and 4. This is container number 4, log type std out, and log content is this. And then container number 2 also would be there somewhere. This container number 1. And this container number 2, you get the output. Now we also like to run what is called, if I want to run a different command, let's say I want to run a shell script. Let's say my shell script is this. I basically want to know who are the users logged in, like who. You basically see 4 users logged in, which is the current directory where this by default my container runs. So every time you create a container, it creates a temporary directory address. You want to look at where, you'll see pwd, who the user is, and unit, or any other command you like to run. Then we'll run basically dshell. Let me run this command. Now this is a shell script, so I cannot be using shell arguments. I'll use I believe shell script and not shell scripts. Yes, shell script. So d shell.sh. Let's say I keep 3 containers. So we'll see output of the 4 commands, and I need to look at std out under container number 2, container number 3, and container number 4. Container number 1 corresponds to application master, and we'll discuss that more in detail when we get into the yarn structure. So application completed successfully, application ID 46. Let's look at the log of 46. So this you can see is container 2, 3, 4. This container number 3. And we need to basically look at log type std out. This is std error, and this is log type std out. Container number 3. The first command was who. We have the 4 users. So log content will contain all the output. The first command was who. Second command was pwd. So look at for each container, it creates temporary directory and you say temporary directory 3. And after a job is done, this temporary directory would be removed. So for container number 2, you would say directory number 2. And then third command in shell script was ID. So we're saying ID 1001 yarn. And fourth command was uname minus a. So you can look at uname minus a, Linux host, and that is what you see in the output. And other command was ID. I can run it as well and see you'll basically get the same output. The who, the 4 users, PWD, this is I'm running my current cell, but in container it's saying container print working directory, and then UID and Linux, and that is what the output container number 3. Same way you'll get container number 2 output. This is output of container number 2. Then output of container number 4, and container number 1 is the application master. This is application master. So we look at container number 4. This is container number 4, and we'll get the output in std out. This is std out, and you get the output. So depending on what you are running, so there is no MapReduce. We run simple shell commands, shell scripts on 4 different machines. And this basically means now this command shell script could be any program. So this gives us capability of running a distributed computing program. And that is the benefit that basically Yarn gives you compared to what we got into our simple Hadoop one, which is MapReduce. Already seen that. Now let us look at what is the Yarn application structure looks like. You've seen all that. Let me just skip this. But done all that. So I would again suggest you run yourself in a container, practice, and make sure you understand this, and you should be fine. You already ran this, look at the job ID, make sure you understand things, and you should be fine. So this is the structure of basically MapReduce application. So you have a resource manager. Resource manager has basically called a built-in scheduler, because resource manager primarily allocate resources where it is available. And if you want to run a specific algorithm based on capacity, preference, fairness, then you have plugin scheduler there. But each time a client makes a request to resource manager, it launches an application master. So one application master is launched for each application. So this diagram, we are showing 2 applications. One is a MapReduce client, other is message passing interface client. The MPI applications typically are used heavily in the high performance computing. So 2 applications, MapReduce client and MPI client. MapReduce client, first we need to launch application master, which is we have an application master, and then it basically communicates with resource manager, get the resources availability, and says I need to launch 3 applications, so negotiates and launches 3 containers, and you would see the 3 actual applications are run in 3 containers. So application 1, container 1, application 1, container 2, application 1, container 2. Same way if you run message passing interface applications, to launch its own application master, and based on the resources capacity available, it says I need to run this application 4 cluster nodes. So discusses this application master, negotiate with resource manager, and schedule this application on the 4 nodes. And that is what it basically does. Application 2, container 1, application 2, container 2, application 2. So if you look at one node is running both the containers, other nodes are which is something else, and that is how the basically the Yarn application works. So let's look at a little bit more detail what a resource manager is. The primary job is to run scheduling of the jobs on the cluster nodes. It primarily acts as central authority. Depending on the computing needs, allocate resources to the computing applications on the cluster. The resource manager has a global view of all the cluster resources, which machine, how much memory is available, how much compute power is available, how many virtual cores are available, and so on and so forth. And based on that and based on the pluggable scheduling, it ensures fairness, capacity, and locality. Locality basically means you like to run a job where data is available. It's a primary goal of Hadoop was to move computing to the node where data is rather than moving the data, because you're trying to process large amount of data and moving data will take huge amount of time. When we look at the container, we basically look at logical bundle of resources, memory, cores, storage, compute power, and all that for given cluster node, and that is where the actual application runs. And each node, to make sure things are available, resource manager always talks to node manager, which is responsible for resources on a given node. And then you have application master, whose job is to basically schedule, talk to, communicate with resource manager and schedule the job. So node manager is responsible for local monitoring of resources on a given cluster node. So it looks at basically node up, down, heartbeat. Resource manager knows which nodes are available and how much resources, compute power, memory, network bandwidth, etc. is available. It also starts and kill job creates container, but the managing life cycle of a different jobs is done by application master. The way application works, user submits an application to resource manager. Resource manager makes sure that he can run the application. So basically goes through control phase, verifies that application is allowed to run. In our setup, we are not doing any security validations, but if that is needed in real life, it verifies that. And then basically once it approves, it moves the application into what is called an accepted state. That yes, it will run the application. Accepted state does not mean application is running. Once it accepts the application, it basically starts allocating resources on the required cluster nodes. And once all the resources are allocated, then it moves to the running state when application starts running. And then allocates the application master, whose job is to talk to the applications and node managers to see applications running and coordinates with them to complete the job. So application master primary job is to run a single application master for a given application. And this application master could be independent of MapReduce, like distributed cell would have one application master, message passing an application with another application master, as you seen, distributed cell would have another application master, and so on and so forth. And it is available, keeps running till the entire application runs complete on required number of cluster nodes, ensures the communication between the application master and the application components. And if this is application master corresponds to, let's say, MapReduce, which requires flow that output of mapper has to go to the reducer. So even ensuring that flow of execution is done by this application master. Since we have removed out of MapReduce framework, generic framework, that basically means we could run any application. Like if I can run distributed cell, and in cell I can run any kind of program. So I'm not confined to running MapReduce. I could run any kind of application with that. And the communication protocol with application master and node manager is follows on the lines of called Google Protocol Buffer. We will not get into details of what the protocol is, but those interested can basically follow the link, understand that part, should be fine. The benefit Hadoop gives you is because we have a large number of commodity servers, and we can have that means we have a large amount of compute power, and we can make use of the computing power of distributed nodes as a single node called harnessing computing powers. And that is primarily what the application master does. It makes a request to resource manager schedule the resources because it knows the global view. It knows which node has what resources available, basically CPU or compute power, memory, and other resources, and then start the resources that the way job does. And this is what basically we are run. So we look at the application structure. Now we look at the application framework. Hadoop 1, we had only MapReduce. Hadoop 2 gives the freedom. That means MapReduce is one application framework, but we could run other kind of applications as well. And we have seen one example was our distributed cell. There could be other different kind of applications that could make use of MapReduce. And we look at some of those frameworks. So we'll basically have very small, very high level view what those application does rather than getting into those details because those details are not part of the coursework. So we'll not go into those because each one could take a lecture by itself. So we'll basically look at the different application framework, what they run, but primarily the framework provides the basic services, scheduling, data locality, meaning you like to run the application where your data resides locally rather than moving the data because you wouldn't like to move the data. However, it also takes into account if your data is available, but node is too busy, there are no resources available, is overloaded, then you don't want to run, then you produce schedule an application nearby node with high bandwidth so that the data could be moved. So it takes into that account, does their job, ensures fault monitoring. If any application fails, restart a node fails, schedule the application some other node, and basically those kind of. So general structure of application framework under Yarn looks like the following. You have a version 1 MapReduce that remains as it is. The version 1 MapReduce also includes a peak and high part of it. In Hadoop version 2 ecosystem, we have other kind of frameworks. We have a distributed cell, we have Apache Tej, which basically expedites the application dependency that define the dependency using a directed cyclic graph, chaining as a sequential. So in that, number of applications could run in parallel because there is no dependency there among themselves. The sibling level, that's what Apache Tej does. And in that sense, it gives you automatic expedition of running applications. We have a graph for processing of graph connectivity. We'll get into details. And then other Spark, you have a store, message passing interface, and so on and so forth. So all these applications, they talk to resource manager make use of underlying HDFS if needs to. A distributed cell may not use it, or application may use it. That's where things run on. So we'll look at individual frameworks one at a time. First framework we looked at was Yarn distributed cell, which is the example built in with Hadoop version 2, and that's what we ran. And I would again say, run this distributed cell with different options. Write a cell script, look at your doors and see what is to be done. Then other app, which is there, MapReduce, which was from Hadoop v1, and Hadoop is when Hadoop v2 was defined, that ensure that MapReduce should run as it is without changes to make sure backward compatibility, and that is what second framework is, and which is a PigHive is part of it. Oozie is parallel, we can run workflow. It works with both MapReduce 1, Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2. Then we have Apache Tej. We looked at chaining. When you look at the example of grep, that we have one MapReduce job, and this output is fed to second MapReduce job, and that is chaining. Then we also defined called DAG framework, and you depending on Oozie, you can define a configuration file through defining how the dependencies are. And given the DAG, so we could have DAG something like one MapReduce job, then 3 MapReduce jobs depend on the first MapReduce job, then some job depends upon this job. So that basically means these 3 jobs could run in parallel, and rather than we defining everything, Tej basically makes sure that all 3 could run in parallel, and that's how the it runs the job faster. So primarily, that is what Apache Tej does. It gives you much faster processes, and all things runs a single job in a faster. The next framework is Graph, which is basically for looking at application that involves graph processing. If we look at the social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, each user is connected to other users. LinkedIn, you are connected to other networks. Twitter, either you follow somebody or you are followed by somebody. So if you want to build a whole graph of users, and that means number of nodes could be much larger in millions. So if you want to create social graph of the users and process those, that is what is given by Apache Graph, and that's what has been written. It was written on Hadoop v1, but highly inefficient, and with Yarn, with Hadoop v2, it becomes a lot more efficient, and that is what another framework. Another framework I can look at is given is Hoya. Again, I said we are basically giving you very high level overview. I'm not sure what is going to be asked in the main exam, because this is just plain mugging up looking at. Unless you use them, you probably won't know. But just get a basic idea. At least look at the respective web pages to figure out what the different applications means. We already look at HBase. HBase was basically distributed NoSQL database or data repository. If you want to run a cluster of HBase, that is what basically Hoya provides. User creates configuration file for HBase clusters, run them, and basically that's what HBase gives. Next framework would be Apache Spark. It basically runs keeping data in memory. If you look at our MapReduce, MapReduce basically from mapper to reducer, and reducer always outputs data into a file. We create a directory output there, whereas we like to keep data in memory for further processing. So Apache Spark basically work with the application that keep data in memory, because anytime you write onto disk IO, it stores all the performance. And so primary uses are in data mining, machine learning applications. For example, you are running deep neural networks or ANN, you do number of iterations. You like to use data continuously in memory rather than writing into a file. So each epoch you want to run, to read and write from disk, it will become too slow down. And in that sense, your Apache Spark gives you much better performance. So it differs that it holds the result in memory, doesn't have to write into the disk, and then basically it can give you more than MapReduce functions. So MapReduce is basically mapper and reducer, but it gives you a general API which can use in Java, Scala, or any other languages, or use LTF storage directly. In that sense, it gives you better. Next framework is Store, which is again basically in the memory. If we look at our MapReduce job, we expect our job to be finished, and only then we get the output. But if we are looking at streaming data, such as web log, if you look at the web log, it is streaming data, and data would keep on running and would never complete. So if you still want to do analytics, for example, how many new IP address we got in last 1 hour with access the web server, a number of requests that got accessed, number of web pages. So you want to get running output on a running stream data, then we have to use Apache Store, because MapReduce expects job to be complete only in the output, which is not the case. And that these applications where data keeps coming continuously, in order to get the results, we basically use the Apache Store. And again, since we are using Hadoop 2, we're not confined to Java. It could be any other application languages which you can use and run things up. So primary uses of Apache Storm is real-time analytics, the machine learning application, distributed RPC called remote procedure call. Remote procedure call is like in local computing. you invoke a library call, simply invoke the library name by the name, and library gets executed. Remote procedure means my library is available to some other machine, and I want to use that. That's what RPC is, and I'm sure you would have used that in Java. If not, I would suggest review it, how RPC works. That means you can invoke a library function called a remote machine, and that is called RPC, remote procedure call, and other kind of information. Basically, Storm gives me very fast performance because running continuously. And since we have a large number of nodes, commodity nodes, I can scale up and get better performance. Other frameworks known as Hamster, which basically combines Hadoop and message passing interface. Message passing interface is basically used in high performance computing. It started with C++ interface, but is available in other frameworks as well now. However, MPI basically assumes that the number of compute platforms on which you are running are connected by a high network connectivity, such as fast Ethernet or InfiniBand, that kind. Another framework is called Apache Flink. Normally, if you look at MapReduce is basically batch processing. You run a map job, you run a reducer job, completes, and then you are done. You are not doing anything interactively. Whereas in Flink, it basically gives you both batch and stream data processing, data control is running, is not terminating, and that benefit it basically gives you. So it gives you programming. The abstraction means basic API which you can use to run this data processing, and that gives you benefit. And again, to a stream processing, basically whatever API framework available, batch processing, same thing could be easily seamlessly applied to streaming, and that is what Flink basically gives you. So benefit of Flink over Spark is it gives you low latency, less delay compared to Apache Spark. The number of the framework which I haven't covered, just basic overview of different framework, but I would suggest you to spend time, run distributed shell, be comfortable with it, run few commands, write a shell script, run things up, and then look at analyze the log and see how things run. So what we discussed today is distributed shell, which is one map framework in Hadoop 2, which does not use MapReduce. Then we look at YARN structure, that basically means resource manager, application master, and then you have the container where applications run under the node manager. And then we look at few of the YARN frameworks other than distributed shell and our MapReduce. We look at Phase, Giraffe. Giraffe is for graph processing, like want to build a huge graph of social media users, or you want to run a cluster of HBase. Phase basically expedites your parallel processing of MapReduce jobs, which can be defined by a DAG. We looked at other frameworks such as Spark and Storm and Flink and that kind of stuff. So this brings to the end of our lecture today. So again, I would say please review, experience, run distributed shell. That gives you an idea that how Hadoop infrastructure can be used for non-MapReduce jobs. This brings to the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we are done for today. And I would say your assignments are due day after tomorrow. So I would say please complete those assignments and submit it. Otherwise, you'll get into late penalty work.